Hi, sweeties. I have a good one for you today. That's right, we've got vegan, sweet, and spicy collard greens. Ooh, yes, so good. And it's meatless, olive oil's in there, little cane syrup, hot peppers, but not too hot. Okay, well, let's get into it. But first, please subscribe to Sweet Savant. Hit that thumbs up, that notification bell. And now let's get into these vegan, sweet, and spicy collard greens. Ooh. I ordered 2 bunches of collard greens from Whole Foods delivery, and they were very small, like very, very small bunches, but they were very clean and some really nice, tasty looking, healthy leaves. Now, this is what I normally expect when I get a bunch of collard greens. This was at Publix, so this is a much bigger bunch, like 3 times as big, but it needs a lot of cleaning. So back to the greens I have. So the 2 bunches of Whole Foods collard greens. They were pretty clean when I got them, but you always want to give collard greens a good washing because sand can hide in there and you don't want those sandy collard greens, honey. No, don't do that. So wash them thoroughly under running water, and then we're going to pull out that stem, pull out the rib, because that can be tough, and this is a quick cooking dish, so we want to make sure that everything is nice and tender. So we're gonna roll them up and just give them a cut, and cut them into strips about maybe 1/3 to 1/2 an inch wide. Now, if you don't want to go through all the washing and chopping, you can buy a bag of pre-washed chopped collard greens. You can do that, no problem. Just beware that the bagged collard greens tend to have a lot of stem in them, which can be tougher, so you might have to cook it for a little bit longer. But you can buy bagged collard greens. I ain't gonna tell nobody, child, it's fine. We'll also need an onion and some red peppers. So I'm going to use just half of this large onions for this 2 smaller bunches of collard greens. So we're just going to peel off that outer layer and just do a rough chop on this onion. If you can find a sweet onion like a Vidalia onion or like a Walla Walla onion out of Washington, Peru sweet onions, those are all great options. Would you try this vegan version of sweet and spicy collard greens for Thanksgiving? Let me know in the comments if you would serve this as a Thanksgiving side dish. A sweet onion really does help the flavor on this. So chop that onion, and now we have red jalapeños, and we're going to chop these up and give it a little bit of a taste to see just how hot they really are, because that's going to determine how much we add to our dish and whether we're going to add the seeds in or not. So I tasted a piece and it wasn't very hot. It was spicy enough. But you have to do this to your taste and your family's taste. So if you like it hot, you might even want to do, say, a Scotch bonnet or a habanero. But in that case, I wouldn't chop it. I would just maybe pierce it with a knife and then put the whole thing into the dish and let it simmer so it won't be so spicy. Now we're going to add our olive oil, and all of the amounts will be in the description box, so please check the description box for details. Olive oil, and then our onion and our red jalapeno, and we're going to saute that just to soften a bit. Now, we're not looking for this to get brown or anything like that. We just want to get it to be a little bit more soft before we add in our collard greens. And we'll put our shredded collard greens, and they still have a little bit of moisture on them from when we washed them, and that's fine. We're even going to add a little bit more water to it just so that it will help steam down. We don't want a lot of water. We don't want to simmer these or boil them down. We kind of want to steam them down. Add a little bit of salt and pepper and stir that around. And this is over medium heat right now, but we're going to reduce our heat to low because we want it to steam down gently. We're not trying to stir fry anything like that here. We just want them to steam down. So we're going to put the lid on and let this steam down for about 10 minutes on very low heat, and then we'll check on it and see how it's doing. So it's been 10 minutes and you can see how our greens have wilted down. Yeah, those two little bunches, they shrunk up, and look, it looks like it's enough for one person. So be aware of that when you are buying collard greens. Those two little bunches really cook down so much. If you're cooking for a crowd, you're going to need like 6 bunches of collard greens in a big pot. So we'll cover it. It's not quite tender enough. Add a little bit more water after another 5 or so minutes, and just you want to steam it down until it's nice and tender. Now this is not a long cooking like stewed collard greens that you're used to, the sort of ham hock southern cooking collard greens. No, this is a more lightly cooked. It's tender, but it's not sort of falling apart tender, not broken down tender. So, you've got to taste it and see, how is it to you? Is it tender enough for you? After about 20 minutes of low, steaming over low heat, this is tender enough for me. So I'll give it a little bit of a taste and we'll see where it's at. And I think these are good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to drizzle in a little bit of cane syrup. Yeah, this is cane syrup, so it's boiled down sugarcane juice. This is a product made in Louisiana, and it's a nice natural sweetener. It's not as strong as, say, a molasses, but it does have a rich flavor. And then we're going to use some red wine vinegar, a little bit of acidity at the end, because we want our greens to keep their bright green color, so that's why we don't add it earlier. So we're going to drizzle some of the cane syrup, and then we're going to drizzle some of that red wine vinegar. And you know what? We're done. It's just that easy. Dinner is done. Well, this part of dinner is done, but it's tasty. We have the heat from those red peppers, and you can add red pepper flake as well if you want even more heat. And let's give it a little taste. I mean, I love it. I love greens like this. It's sweet, it's spicy, it's savory. It's so delicious, and I hope you try it. I mean, quick, easy, so delicious, vegan, sweet and spicy collard greens. You can alter the sweetener. My dad uses grape jelly. This is where I got the whole idea from. He uses a little bit of grape jelly in his collard greens sometimes and sautés them down in olive oil. So, so good. Black pepper is key. A little more black pepper than I usually add, but it really works well with the heat and the sweet. Apple cider vinegar is a fine substitute, just a splash at the end so that we can maintain the beautiful green color of our collard greens. Kale is a great substitute for collard greens. And spinach, if you want something really, really quick, do this with some spinach and it'll be done in no time. Yes, please subscribe to Sweet Savant. Hit that thumbs up, that notification bell, and y'all have a delicious day.